Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. I hope you're all having a fantastic day. The bright studio lights of Live with Kelly and Mark had always seemed to shine a little differently on Mondays. They cast a glow that made everything feel perfect, sparkling coffee mugs, gleaming countertops, and of course, Kelly's radiant smile. But on that particular morning, something was different. Kelly Ripa arrived at the studio as usual, greeting the crew with her trademark enthusiasm. "Morning, guys," she called, tossing her designer tote onto the chair behind the desk. Mark Consuelos, ever the calm counterbalance to Kelly's whirlwind energy, raised an eyebrow and smiled knowingly. He had been on this show long enough to understand the rhythm, the pace, and the quirks that came with live television. Yet, as Kelly prepared for the opening monologue, a quiet tension hummed beneath her usual exuberance. She felt a flutter in her stomach, not the butterflies of excitement that always accompanied a new show segment, but a weight, subtle yet insistent, pressing at the edge of her focus. As the cameras rolled and the familiar live announcement echoed through the studio, Kelly launched into her intro with practiced ease. Her voice was bright, her gestures animated. Mark chimed in beside her, effortlessly supportive as the segment unfolded smoothly, or so it seemed. And then it happened. A moment so small, so seemingly trivial, that most viewers might have missed it entirely. But Kelly felt it keenly. Midway through a lighthearted segment on the latest celebrity trends, she accidentally mispronounced a name. Minor slip, easily corrected, but in that brief instant, the bright studio lights felt harsher and the hum of the cameras seemed louder. Kelly's cheeks warmed, and for a heartbeat, she froze, unsure whether to laugh it off or correct herself. Mark, ever the partner both on screen and off, leaned slightly toward her, whispering a gentle, "You're fine." His calm presence was a lifeline, anchoring her as she continued. Yet the tiniest flicker of self-consciousness lingered, and in a live broadcast, self-consciousness has a way of magnifying itself. After the segment, during a commercial break, Kelly retreated briefly to the green room, heart still racing from the fleeting embarrassment. She replayed the moment in her mind, the mispronounced name, the brief stumble, the way she had felt suddenly exposed in front of millions. And then she laughed. Not the practiced, camera-ready laugh, but a real, messy, human laugh, the kind that rises from deep inside when you recognize your own imperfections. Mark followed her, a knowing smile on his face. "Hey, it's live TV. Everyone messes up, and honestly, you make it look charming." Kelly shook her head, still chuckling. "Charming? That was awkward as hell," she admitted, leaning back against the wall. But Mark's presence had a way of diffusing the tension, and soon the laughter became shared, a moment of connection that transcended the studio lights and cameras. Later that afternoon, after the show had wrapped and the crew had begun packing up equipment, Kelly reflected on what had happened. She realized that the moment, awkward, fleeting, and intensely human, was precisely what made live television relatable. Millions of viewers tuned in not just for the glitz and glamour, but for these little cracks in perfection, these glimpses of vulnerability that mirrored their own experiences. Kelly thought about the countless emails and social media messages she had received over the years, messages from viewers confessing their own embarrassing moments, their daily stumbles, their fears of being imperfect. And suddenly, the mispronounced name, the brief freeze on camera, felt less like a failure and more like a bridge, a connection between her and her audience. The next morning, as she prepared for the show, Kelly carried that insight with her. She approached the desk with renewed perspective, embracing the possibility of imperfection rather than fearing it. Mark noticed immediately, his eyes crinkling at the corners in a smile that said, "You've got this." And then the moment returned. Not the mispronounced name, not the stumble, but the shared humanity of it all. As the cameras rolled, Kelly laughed freely at a minor ad-lib, letting a tiny slip of the tongue linger just long enough for it to feel real. Mark responded with a mock gasp, perfectly timing his reaction to heighten the humor. The segment ended in laughter, not perfection, and the energy in the studio was electric, not for the flawless execution, but for the authenticity that shone through. Backstage, Kelly confided in the producers, who nodded knowingly. "That's the magic," one of them said. People don't connect with perfect, they connect with real. Kelly smiled, feeling the truth of it settle comfortably in her chest. It wasn't about flawless pronunciation or perfect timing. It was about showing up, being human, and allowing that humanity to breathe even in front of millions. Later that evening, at home, Kelly recounted the day to Mark. They were in their kitchen, the warm glow of the lamp casting gentle shadows, a quiet contrast to the bright chaos of the studio. "You know," Kelly said, stirring her tea, "I think I get it now. That little on-air slip, it's why people love watching us, because it's real, it's relatable." Mark reached across the table, taking her hand. "Exactly," he said simply, "and besides, you handled it like a pro, with humor, grace, and authenticity. That's what matters." Kelly smiled, a mixture of relief and pride washing over her. The day's small stumble, once a source of anxiety, had become a lesson, one she hoped to share not just with viewers, but with anyone watching, anyone who had ever felt the sting of imperfection. The next week, Kelly addressed the moment openly on the show, turning the incident into a teachable, laughable, and entirely human story. "You know," she began, eyes
Mischief and
sparkling with
sincerity,
mischief.
sometimes even we get it wrong on live TV. And you know what? That's okay, because it's moments like these, awkward, imperfect, and completely human, that make life and TV a little more relatable. The audience erupted in applause, some laughing, some nodding in recognition, all connecting with her honesty. Social media lit up with clips of the segment, viewers sharing their own similar mishaps, creating a ripple of shared humanity. Kelly watched the responses later, a soft smile curving her lips, realizing that one small slip had sparked a wave of empathy and connection far beyond the studio walls. That night, Kelly and Mark sat together on the couch, reflecting on the week. "You really turned that moment around," Mark said, a hint of awe in his voice. "Not everyone could do that." Kelly shrugged, her gaze thoughtful. "I think we all stumble sometimes. It's just about how we respond. And honestly, if we can laugh at ourselves, we might just make the world a little more human." Mark nodded, squeezing her hand gently. "And that's exactly what you do, every single day." As the lights dimmed and the city outside twinkled with life, Kelly felt a sense of peace. The day's tiny on-air misstep, once a source of stress, had become a moment of clarity, a reminder that perfection was never the goal, connection was. And in that connection, she found not just relief, but joy, laughter, and the quiet knowledge that even in a world of cameras and scripts, being real was always worth it. Kelly drifted off to sleep that night with a soft smile, imagining the millions of people who had seen her stumble and laugh along with her. Somewhere, someone had felt a little less alone, a little more understood, simply because she had dared to be human on live television. And for Kelly, that was the greatest reward of all. Because in the end, it wasn't about flawless delivery, sparkling scripts, or perfect timing. It was about the courage to embrace imperfection, to laugh at life's little slips, and to share those moments openly, vulnerably, and wholeheartedly. And that, Kelly realized, was the most relatable moment of all.